Well, the timing of this video is kind of inconvenient. YouTube is apparently cracking down on language, and I gotta say the name Buber for the next couple of minutes and hope it doesn't get flagged. So in Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous letter from Birmingham jail, he makes a quick reference to a Jewish philosopher by the name of MartinBuber. The note is short, blink and you'll miss it, but it concerns segregation and how we view other people. Perhaps then we should really look into who this MartinBuber is and what he has to say about our relationship with other people. Buber was born on February 8, 1878 in Vienna, and spoiler alert, he passes away in 1965. So if you know your history, you'll know this guy lived through a lot of change. Now, his folks separated pretty early on in his life, so he really was raised mainly by his grandparents. His grandfather in particular was a big scholar of Jewish studies, and this rubbed off on little Martin, who in turn became very interested in these subjects. But while at university, he got very into philosophy, specifically German philosophy like Kant and Nietzsche. This blending of philosophy and Jewish studies got him involved in the Zionist movements at the time. Now, Zionism is a hot button issue right now, and this isn't exactly a political philosophy channel. Still, I think it's an important part of his life, so we should clarify what exactly Zionism is to MartinBuber. Unlike some of his contemporaries who had a more politically oriented vision in mind for Israel, Buber seemed to be mainly focused on the religious and the spiritual. This land obviously shares a deep historical and religious relationship with us. By returning to this land, a place we consider our spiritual home, our historic home, our lives will be spiritually altered for the better. This view put him in opposition to other prominent Zionists at the time, like Theodor Herzl, who saw the Zionist project in a more political light. It seems, from an outsider's perspective, that Herzl's vision for Israel ultimately won out in the end. Buber seemed to be more of an advocate for pacifism and binationalism, hoping that all communities living in the area could coexist in peace. But keep in mind, this is a very brief glimpse at Buber's role in the history of Zionism, so I suggest doing your own independent research if this stuff fascinates you. Now, Buber in 1930 has established himself as a prominent intellectual in the field of Judaism and philosophy, and he's made an honorary professor in 1930 in Frankfurt. But when Hitler came to power in 1933, he resigns in protest. And in 1938, in order to avoid further persecution, including the very large possibility of death, Buber relocates to the land that he's talked about so often, specifically in Jerusalem. Despite some bumps in the road, he continues to live there until his death in 1965. That brings us to his most famous work published in 1923, the one MLK draws from, I and Thou. The book is translated from German as Ich und Du, which actually is important because apparently in German, there are multiple ways of saying the word you. There's du, which seems to be more for personal interactions, and then there's sie, which you could use with random strangers, it seems like. German people, feel free to shed more light on this in the comments, and make fun of my German pronunciation. But what's important here is that Buber deliberately chooses to use du instead of sie, the more personal, intimate you, which matters as you'll see once we get into the book. Now, don't let this short, roughly 100-page book fool you. This book is packed, and Buber's poetic language is nice, but it'll lead you reading and rereading passages over and over again to get a grasp of what's being said. In fact, the language of the book is so mystical at times that it has led to different interpretations and confusion. Still, we should try to do our best to decipher what exactly Buber is trying to convey. The book opens, thankfully, with a general setup though. The world is twofold for man in accordance with his twofold attitude. The attitude of man is twofold in accordance with the two basic words he could speak. The basic words are not single words but word pairs. Alright, so the world can be seen in two ways based on two different attitudes, and these attitudes are the result of word pairs. So what are these word pairs? One of the word pairs or attitudes is I-you or I and thou like our title, and the other word pair attitude is I-it. So we have our I, that's you, so there's a you implied here, and your attitude in the world can be divided by a relationship between a you or an it, forming an I-you or an I-it. There's no I outside one of these relationships. So long as you live, you're either in an I-it or an I-you relationship. There is no I as such, but only the I of the basic word I-you and the I of the basic word I-it. Okay, but what is an I-you or I-it relationship? Let's start with the I-it relationship because it's the easiest to explain and it's the relationship we live in the most. To be in an I-it relationship with the world is to experience it in a way that's disconnected and specific to a certain means. Buber uses the example of contemplating a tree in an I-it relationship. You look at the tree, you may experience and take note of its shape or its color, getting some sort of aesthetic pleasure from it. Maybe you take note of it scientifically, assigning it a species and observing it like a specimen. Maybe it grows apples and you see it as a source for food. Either way, you're experiencing it in a certain way, objectifying it, and that way is probably determined by you getting some sort of use out of it. What do you want to experience the tree for? Now what about people? You absolutely could be in an I-it relationship with people. In fact, it's very much the norm. You interact every day with people based on what use they have for you. You go through a drive-thru and the person there is fulfilling a certain job for you. You go to work and interact with people because they're a customer or a coworker. Heck, even with friends and lovers. You don't consciously do this, but you associate with them and view them because of some desire that's being fulfilled. In short, whether it's people or objects, we are constantly living in the I-it world. Now, Buber isn't saying that this I-it world is bad. In fact, we need it to survive and live in the world. We need to experience things insofar as they are useful to us in some way in order to operate in this life. The I-it world is essential for us. Without it, you cannot remain alive. Its reliability preserves you, but if you were to die into it, then you would be buried in nothingness. I hope that last part of the quote hit you, because hopefully you feel intuitively that something's missing if you only look at people and things through the lens of a use in the I-it relationship world. And that's what brings us to the other alternative, the I-you relationship. Now, this is where it's going to be a lot more difficult. The I-you relationship to me reads like something mystical, something mysterious, like the mystery flavor Airhead. You like it, but you can't really define what exactly it's all about. Let's go back to our example of the tree. In our I-it world, we viewed the tree through a certain lens which we found useful to whatever goal we had in mind. In the I-you world, we would be pulled into this relationship with the tree, in which everything about me is present and everything about the tree is present. Whatever belongs to the tree is included. Its form and its mechanics, its color and its chemistry, its conversation with the elements and its conversation with the stars. All this in its entirety. You don't view the tree through a specific lens or in a certain light. You view the tree. Capitalized and all. This might be where Kant's influence comes in. You see, I may be completely off base, but it seems like Buber might be saying we enter into a relationship with the thing in itself, using Kant's phrase. Not our perception of the thing, but the actual thing in itself. But that's just my reading of it. Let's apply this to a person. Instead of conversing with a barista just to get a coffee, or talking to your friend about a movie you just saw, what if you entered into this I-you relationship, and in some mystical movement, had the entirety of you present, and the entirety of this other person present? Now, it's unclear how specific Buber is in his litmus test of what constitutes a genuine I-you relationship. I've had some deep talks with people, and in that moment, the talk was so engaging that I get lost in it. I sometimes feel like I'm fully engaged in this discussion, like my entire being is present, and the person I'm conversing with is altogether there as well. Does that constitute an I-you relationship? It seems that it's at least closer to that than an I-it relationship. What is clear though, is that there's a lack of objectification in the I-you relationship. We all objectify people in our lives through the I-it relationship. Let's not lie to ourselves. We do not contemplate the life and existence of the Taco Bell employee handing us our beef and cheese chalupa with a medium Baja Blast Zero at 11 at night. And hey, neither do they see me as nothing but a gluttonous customer. But when you get into the I-you relationship, you see someone truly as a human. Not someone to be used or just an object to be observed, but a genuine human. This was what MLK was referring to in his letter. He was making a call for us to engage in more I-you relationships to heal racism. One last thing though, how do you get into an I-you relationship? Well, you can't just will it to happen. It's not like you could just decide, hey, I'll get into this I-you relationship and it'll happen. Rather, it happens unexpectedly. However, this doesn't mean that there's nothing required on your end. Buber asks us to be open to these I-you relationships, like you're holding open a baseball glove. It doesn't guarantee a ball will fly at you, but if it does, you'll be ready. The you encounters me by grace. It cannot be found by seeking, but that I speak the basic word to it is a deed of my whole being, is my essential deed. As you could see, these concepts are pretty esoteric and poetic. So as always with all of my videos, I encourage you to read the direct source material yourself. Stop using me in this I-it relationship. Nah, I'm seriously thankful for you for watching this video. It means a lot. And if you found it helpful, I do ask that you subscribe. We're getting pretty close to 50,000 subscribers, which is crazy. And most importantly, I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day and many I-you relationships to come.